Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Uh, there is a lot of discussion in the Christian denominations throughout the world, specifically in the US, uh, about something called the Enneagram. And I wanted to go over with you today the research I have done. Right now, I'm recording this. This is in the summer of 2021. I became aware of the Enneagram inside my local church around this time 2 years ago. And I've actually created this PowerPoint presentation almost 2 years ago. And then I kind of presented it to leadership and I kind of just let it go after that. And I don't think anything ever came of it. However, I did want to uh, make anyone else aware of the Enneagram if they're having questions of discernment of um, any Christian out there that's kind of like, hey, what the heck is this? My church is kind of bringing it up. I'm like a 1, a 5, or a 8. Um, it's really had a resurgence as of late over the last few years, especially in charismatic non-denominational evangelical circles. It's made its way around, and I just wanted to go over it today. So let's get into it. I have a list of sources at the end of this video in the PowerPoint. I will also link to the PowerPoint itself, and anyone is allowed to view the PowerPoint, critique it as much as you would like. I'm all for critiquing. I could be wrong, but I've done my research. So yeah, let's get into it. Just want to clarify my goals for this project is to present the information objectively as I was able to research it, and not to be legalistic in any of my presenting. Let's start off with some definitions that you'll see: esoteric and Gnostic. So I just pulled these from Google and pasted them here, and they fall pretty much in line with how people that are in this movement define things. So esoteric is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. Gnostic is the root word Gnostic is defined as relating to knowledge, especially esoteric mystical knowledge or the seeking of knowledge. So it's the seeking of specialized knowledge that only a small number of people would understand or know. So one of the lies and misconceptions I would like to address, this is the big one, is that the Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system. I hope that by the end of this PowerPoint, we will come to discover that that is not true, that most of the leading Enneagram teachers present this case, but it's just simply not true if we go back and dig deep down into the people that actually brought the Enneagram into the present day in its current form. So let's start off with kind of one of the original founders of the Enneagram in its most basic foundation. Forgive me if I misspell his name. I don't know his name pronunciation too much. I've just looked him up and I didn't do any more research on how to pronounce his name. His name is George Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff. I don't know how to say it. He was the originator of the Enneagram. He was a mystic, philosopher, and a spiritual teacher. He taught that most humans do not possess a unified consciousness, and thus they're living their lives in a state of hypnotic waking sleep. But that it is possible to awaken to a higher state of consciousness and achieve full human potential. He lived in the 1800s. He passed away in 1945, just after World War II. His method, Gurdjieff's method for awakening one's consciousness, unites the methods of the fakir, monk, and yogi, and thus he referred to it as the fourth way, because he combined the other three traditional kind of Eastern mythic ways with his own kind of spin on things. Consider the Enneagram as a symbol of the cosmos, but made no connection with it to personality types. Now, I want to point that out because this is really, really important. The foundation of the Enneagram comes from this guy, George Gurdjieff. And he originally had no connection made with the Enneagram to personality types the way we see it today. See, a lot of people might say it's an ancient personality tool, but I'd never heard of it before 2017, 2018, 2019. So how could that be? And I'm not the only one. It did show up in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s in certain Christian circles, and we'll get to that. But I wanted to let you know that the Enneagram has become an evolution. It's evolved over time to different things, and what we see today is just the end result of how it started. Gurdjieff said that the Enneagram is a universal symbol. All knowledge can be included in the Enneagram, and with the help of the Enneagram, it can be interpreted. Okay. So we'll move on to Oscar Ichazo. I think I might not have this updated. I think he did pass away recently. Oscar Ichazo was the first person to connect the Enneagram to ego fixations, which are patterns holding the individual back from his true essence. This eventually formed the 9 personality types that we see today. Ichazo claimed to have discovered this connection of the Enneagram to ego fixations while on a spiritual journey of enlightenment. Ichazo's teachings are designed to help people transcend their own identification with and the suffering caused by their own mechanistic thought and behavioral patterns. I say see fourth way, that is related to George G's philosophies behind what he called the fourth way. So as we can see, it's already kind of starting to evolve itself through this process of different teachers throughout time. Claudio Naranjo, he's actually probably one of the biggest objective truths and proofs that we know of that will prove the Enneagram as a neutral, non-spiritual, safe for Christian use method of typology. Claudio Naranjo was considered a pioneer in integrating psychotherapy and spiritual traditions. He was a student, lo and behold, of Oscar Ichazo. He was the first person to connect the 9 points of the Enneagram to 9 basic personality types. In the 1970s, students of Naranjo spread the Enneagram to various Catholic communities, especially in mystical and contemplative circles. Moving on to closer to present day, Bob Oakes was one of Naranjo's students who studied the Enneagram system of personality and is significantly credited with bringing it to Catholics in the United States, first to the Midwest Jesuits and then to students at Berkeley out in California. In the 1970s, Catholic theology students were taught the Enneagram in Chicago by Father Bob Oakes. Oakes changed the Enneagram to suit his theological purpose of integrating the Enneagram with the teachings of St. Ignatius Loyola. In doing so, Oakes radically changed the Enneagram and fundamentally altered its diagnostic purposes. Helen Palmer was introduced to the Enneagram by Claudio Naranjo in the late 1960s as one of his students. Since that time, she has become preeminent in the field of Enneagram studies. A teacher of psychology, she has made original contributions to our understanding of how meditation and awareness training relate to the 9 psychological types. Although not self-proclaiming, she is most likely a psychic, and she prescribes to New Age philosophies such as using the inner observer as a centerpiece of understanding the Enneagram. Moving on throughout the Enneagram history, Don Riso and Richard Rohr, some of the promoters of the Enneagram in the early Catholic circles, that include the former Jesuit Don Riso and the Franciscan friar Richard Rohr. You might have heard of Richard Rohr. I'm sorry, not Richard Rohr. You might have heard of Don Riso. In 1997, Riso co-founded the Enneagram Institute, an organization that helped to bring the Enneagram to a broader audience. He also wrote the book The Wisdom of the Enneagram, co-authored by another Enneagram Institute co-founder, Russ Hudson. Don Riso was also a member of the New Age Reed Juan School. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting, guys. I have a background kind of in the internet things, marketing. I do a lot of research. There are websites that you can look up old information on. Unfortunately, when you're doing research like this, you come across pages that are forward. Oh no, I couldn't find this page. The Enneagram Institute training facility. Well, that'd be a really nice thing to have information on if we're trying to find the spiritual foundations of this typology program. Good thing there's a place we can look called archive.org. I just put in that URL into a web archive, and it dated back to June 9th, 2016. And this is what the page used to look like. We scrolled down after reading that Don Riso, his little biography. He passed away in 2012. He was a member of the Gurdjieff Foundation, which George G, Big George G, was the founder of how the Enneagram kind of started. But here's an interesting thing. Mr. Don Riso was also a member of the Reed Juan School, Diamond Heart of A.H. Almas. And he and Russ Hudson were the only Enneagram authors and teachers who have actually been members of both Gurdjieff's work and the Diamond Approach. Now, this Reed Juan School, I had to do a little research. It's actually a New Age school. The Diamond Approach is what I was able to find online. It says the Reed Juan School is an inner work school devoted to the realization of true nature. The orientation of the school is directed toward helping students become aware of and embody their essence or essential nature. The outer is the inner. The Diamond Approach is the worldview behind the Reed Juan School and guides the leaders of the Enneagram Institute. It epitomizes the New Age worldview, namely that the outer, the body and mind, is a manifestation of the inner, emptiness and pure spirit and being. You can see over here, they kind of split into different cores, the instinctive center, the feeling center, and the thinking center, the centers of the Enneagram. And moving on to Russ Hudson. He's the co-founder of the Enneagram Institute with Don Riso and teaches at the New Age Omega Institute. This is information you can find by searching in Google or DuckDuckGo or any other a search engine online. If you dig deep enough in different URL links, you will be able to find this information. It is publicly available. You just have to do your own research. He also co-wrote the book The Enneagram and Grace, and 9 Journeys to Divine Presence with Richard Rohr. This was kind of like a little landing page for a free virtual event that I found on Russ Hudson. It's activating the power of the Enneagram in your life and relationship, how to access the deeper dimensions of your soul and grow holistically. There's the shiftnetwork.com. I can't remember exactly how the Shift Network was it came about, but this was just another kind of thing I found. I believe the Shift Network was New Age. It had connections with the Diamond Approach, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I did any more research on that. So that would be something you could look into. Moving on to Richard Rohr. Rohr has written books on the Enneagram and promotes not only the Enneagram, but panentheism, that God is in everything and the earth is kind of God's quote-unquote body. He also has promoted Buddhism and has taken on several students in the Enneagram movement. including a very popular person a lot of Christians nowadays might know by the name of Susan Stable or Stabile. Susan promotes Richard Rohr and has taught the Enneagram at his conferences. She describes the Enneagram as primarily a spiritual tool, and she says she's a present-day Christian, and she's an avid promoter of the Enneagram. I've come down now to my timeline of the Enneagram evolution as far as I could bring it together. I've actually made corrections to this by kind of linking Helen Palmer in there from the past. I had talked with a couple people online and did a little bit more research. But so far, this is what I have been able to come up with as a timeline of the Enneagram evolution from its inception to the present day, where it is taking over Christian circles and really not doing any good, in my opinion. You can see just the tainted hands of New Age all over it, along with a little bit of mysticism. And what's scary to me is a little bit of automatic writing, which I'll get to in a minute. If you would like, you can screenshot this. I'm going to leave this up for a few more minutes. This is a super important picture to grasp. I don't think anyone else has this information online, and I've just now kind of made it available online for anyone that's interested. Like I said, I've been doing this research. I did about 30 to 40 hours of research for stuff I didn't care about. I don't care about the Enneagram. What I care about are Christians being discerning enough to not use things that are not spiritually helpful for them, and getting into a closer relationship with Jesus. And I found that the Enneagram was taking away from people at my church who were getting super involved in it. And I just wanted to make sure anyone and everyone that wants a true, honest, objective view at what these real people are actually known for and what they have done and admitted to. They're not hiding it. None of these guys are actually hiding these things. They come out in full support of things that are not very Christian, in my opinion. It goes very much against what we believe as Christians. So I just wanted to make this information available to everyone. I've had this PowerPoint, like I said, for almost 2 years, and I keep seeing the Enneagram pop up, and I figured it was about time to at least share my research. Like I said, I'm open to criticism. I'm open to getting it wrong. I think what I've provided for the most part today is probably 90% correct. I could be wrong in a few little things here and there, a little bit more links that I haven't connected. I'm pretty sure this is a pretty good, nice timeline that I don't think anyone else has available. So like I said, screenshot that picture. I'm going to continue on with the PowerPoint. I think we're almost done. This is the big slide I wanted to get to. So the present day Enneagram origins kind of come from Claudio Naranjo. We're going to watch a video here. I'm going to try to skip through the video as much as I can to get to the important part. But in this video, we have proof that Claudio Naranjo stated that he made up the ancient origin of the Enneagram, and that he was the origin of the Enneagram, the enneotype concept. He received the 9 types of personalities to overlay on top of the Enneagram through a process called automatic writing. If you don't know what automatic writing is, I've put the definition on the very bottom of this slide. What is automatic writing? It is writing that is said to be produced by a spiritual, occult, or subconscious agents rather than by the conscious intention of the writer. Claudio has also stated that all spiritual movements start with a charismatic phase and then go through a bureaucratic phase. When speaking about the Enneagram movement, his students had started. I just wanted to say before we click this video that I believe his own testimony is the biggest proof that the Enneagram is not good for Christians. Not good. Would I call it a sin? I don't know. I don't want to be so caught up in it that I think anyone that does it is wrong. But I would appreciate more discernment by Christians to look into these things. Especially when popular people that are also strong Christians start looking in and promoting these ideas inside churches. So we're going to get into the video interview.
Introducing Speechalo, the most natural sounding text-to-speech software on the market. Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from Speechalo.
But here's the Enneagram, which is...
I did want to apologize because we had to watch that a little ad. Claudio Naranjo talks about the origins of the Enneagram in his interview about his new book, Healing Civilization. I believe it's around the 4-minute mark that he talks about it. So I'm just going to go to 3 minutes and start it from there.
Actually, when I chose to do that intentionally, and I as he didn't make a distinction, I adopted the same style. So when people heard me, they thought I was talking about something that comes from Babylonian origins through Oscar Ichazo to me.
Well, yeah, because they trust that more. They're being scholars. They trust the scholarship
it makes sense.
route. Yeah.
Actually, when I chose to do that intentionally, and I was remembering a recommendation of Oscar Wilde, who said, if you want an idea of yours to become famous, attribute it to a famous person.
That's right.
So I was more interested
become famous.
So at the conference, I told them I had made up this tale that all this came from millennia ago, and that this information came from the Sufis.
Yes.
I told him that actually Oscar Ichazo had not described any of the enneotypes either. Actually, in the 7 months we spent with him, he devoted about 6 hours to talk about the Enneagram, but he never came to describe any one of the types.
That was in Arica.
That came
in
from
Arica, Chile.
In Arica, Chile, yeah.
Yeah.
So that came from my own observations, but mostly from automatic writing.
Automatic writing?
Yeah, it came to me from automatic writing.
What did?
The specific information
and it's enneotypes.
About enneotypes, which I then verified through observation, because I was surrounded by people I was teaching and exploring with.
And I had friends in Arica who told me essentially.
Okay, I just wanted to stop it real quick. So you guys heard that what Claudio Naranjo said. He flat out lied at a conference about the origins of the Enneagram to his students. He said that, I believe he said that, he had taken it from ancient Babylonian practices because if he said that to his students, they would accept it more, or he attributed it to George Gurdjieff, and that it would be looked at more favorably in terms of authoritative if it came from someone else. But he just admitted when he was there, when he was on a trip, I think it was Ocasio Ichazo. I can't ever get these guys' names right. I do apologize for that, but I know what I'm saying. That he got the process through automatic writing. And then he observed to see if they were true. I could care less about the part that he observed and then it became true. The whole fact is, he admitted that the origin of the enneotypes for the personality types of the Enneagram, he got through a process of automatic writing. Guys, this is such a huge issue that I can't wrap my head around anything else. And it's such a big issue. So I think that was really my big point, was Claudio himself in the video explains to us and proves to us that he came through this process of discovering the enneotypes through a process of automatic writing, which is clearly occultish and New Age. This is not something Christians do. He is not studying the scriptures of the Bible and meditating on the Word of God, and then coming out with and writing in his notebook things about who God says He is. That's not what is happening here. I just, it's a huge deal. It's a very big deal. I wanted to share that with you guys. I think it's a bigger deal than most people think. And this information was not easy to find. Like I said, it took me 20 to 30 hours of finding all of this information and then putting it together after wrapping my head around it. And after you dig so deep into these things, you realize that it's really not as clear as you think it is. Enneagram right now looks really nice and it's cool to do because all your friends are involved. However, that's just, I don't believe that's the spiritual foundation of the Enneagram, that it's this nice little neutrally spiritual thing that Christians are innocently doing. I mean, you have to be discerning about things like this. So, I mean, I've kind of already been talking about this, but, should Christians be using the Enneagram? Now, you guys have known this through this whole PowerPoint. I've been pretty aggressively against the Enneagram. I want to leave room for grace here, because just because I have come to a strong conviction about not using the Enneagram, and I believe that my views are objectively backed up by Scripture, I don't want to turn this into being legalistic against anyone that does, even though me personally, I would disagree with you. And I think I would have valid proof to find any excuse to continue using the Enneagram after learning this. I think it would be foolish. But I want to reserve part of that to, like, you have an ability to look it up yourself. And I could possibly, I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I could possibly be over blowing this whole Enneagram movement. I could be just thinking this is something that I feel very strongly about. However, I also don't think that's the case, because I've seen it permeate so many Christian circles in the last few years. So that's why I think it's such an important thing to talk about now. So yes, I definitely think we should be concerned using it as a typology test. Like I said, I give room here. My explanation is yes, if it's used simply as a diagnostic tool or for a personality classification, it does become less clear. I'm giving it a little bit of room. And it might remain useful despite its origin story, or at least non-harmful. But I mean, that's as much room as I'll give you. That's it. I still think it's very fishy. I think anyone doing it should be very cautious if they're following Jesus. I think you guys should be very cautious using this. So yeah, I mean, in conclusion, if the Enneagram was just another form of strengths finders, I think it would be fine. But my opinion is, from its inception, it has been infused with spiritual significance. And therein lies the danger. Now, I want to say flat out, I don't have any scriptures to back myself up. I did not do any research on counterpoints that are found in the New Testament, the Old Testament, any scriptures from the Bible that say, hey, here is why we shouldn't be doing this because of X. I didn't do that research because this was just preliminary research about the Enneagram that I wanted to bring light to you guys. I would have done a full rebuke of the Enneagram in a different PowerPoint using the scriptures, but that wasn't really my point here. My point here is to say, hey, let's be cautious about the things we're using in our communities. as believers, and let's just try to have a little bit more discernment, because I mean, this is just my personal view, but I think it's dangerous. It probably is, and it's not probably going to help us in our spiritual walk with God. But I think there's room, there's grace, obviously, in the body of Christ. And I think anyone should just be cautious. And that's really what this PowerPoint was for, is bringing to light some objections to the original origin of the Enneagram, and kind of shed some light on the backgrounds of the people teaching it. So you can make your own conclusions when you pray to God about, hey, do you really think I should kind of still be using this? I want to provide my list of sources. Now, some of these are kind of random. As you can see, the third one here is a Facebook post by a former New Ager. The YouTube video is the video from Claudio Naranjo. You have the traditional Enneagram from the Enneagram Institute. You have a little bit about Helen Palmer and the books that she writes and sells. You can kind of see her philosophical viewpoints and kind of her religious standings. And then a couple more articles on the Gospel Coalition and Christian Answers to the New Age. Everything that you see in this PowerPoint has been taken from most of these and picked apart and put into the PowerPoint, as well as Wikipedia. I didn't put up Wikipedia here, and like I said, this is 2 years ago. So if you Google or DuckDuckGo this, or use another search engine, you will find different information. It was very hard to find this information. You'll see a lot of Enneagram training if you search it in Google. You'll have to search for kind of reasons and why not to use the Enneagram. You'll have to search for kind of negative Enneagram, searches. Okay, guys, that was it. I just want to thank you so much for listening, watching, and learning about the Enneagram today. So I just pray that you guys have a good day, and I pray that God allows everyone to just have discernment in these moments, and if God's telling you no, this rich guy is a little too hardcore against Enneagrams, it's nothing you really need to worry about, then that's fine. I just wanted to provide this information for anyone that's really looking for it. So again, thank you guys so much. If you like the video, I'd love for you to comment and tell me what stood out, what did you learn. Leave a like, leave a thumbs up. So thank you guys so much. Okay, have a good day.